I have the Einsatzgruppen killing squads, mass murderers of the Holocaust. We turned toward the grave, and then he turned around and asked, "Whom shall I shoot first?" We were already facing the grave. The Germans asked, "Who do you want me to shoot first?" I felt him take the child from my arms. The child cried out and was shot immediately, and then he aimed at me. This is what survivor Rivka Yasloveska said in her testimony at a war crime court. She was speaking of when the Einsatzgruppen killing squads murdered her village. Einsatzgruppen literally translates to task force. Their task? To kill Jews. This squad, also called the Mobile Killing Unit, was sent to kill Jews on the spot. They had no regard for age or gender, and by 1943, they had murdered 1,250,000 Jews and Soviets. This map, entitled Jewish Executions Carried Out by Einsatzgruppen A, shows at every single casket how many they killed in that area or at that massacre. And at the bottom, on the legend, it says the estimated number of Jews still on hand is 128,000. Compared to what it was before that, they had practically killed all of the Jews. Who made up the Einsatzgruppen? There were 4 units with right around 3,500 SS personnel total. They were split into the 4 groups A, B, C, D. A was assigned to the Baltic states, which was Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania. Group B was assigned to Moscow and the surrounding area. Group C was in Kiev and the surrounding areas, and D was in the Ukraine. With about 1,000 in every group, they had about 350 SS, 150 van or car drivers, 100 regular police, 100 Gestapo or the Nazi police, 130 Ordnungspolizei, which was a special group, 50 Kripo, which would be like the local police in the area that they were at, and they were normally forced to help them, and about 30 SD. The Einsatzgruppen killing squads were violent and emotionless when committing mass shootings, inventing and using gas vans, and leaving survivors to die. Now in this picture you can see a young boy, only 12 or 13, standing over his dead family. The Einsatzgruppen killing squads made him watch as they murdered them, only to murder him right afterwards. Mass shootings were the first murder weapons they used in the Einsatzgruppen. Rivka Yasloveska also talked about what happened at the mass shootings. "I saw the children. They were running after me, hanging on to me. I remained sitting with the children around me, the children who got up from the heap of corpses. Then Germans came. I sat there watching how they collected the children. They gave a few shots, and the children were dead. I didn't think they needed many shots. The children were almost dead."
ב-15 לפברואר 1942 באו לעצור אותנו. אמי אמרה לי, "שמה, תברח." נכנסתי לחדר, פתחתי את החלון וקפצתי מקומה שנייה החוצה. ורצתי לחפש מישהו שיכול להוציא את אמי עם האח הקטן. ואף אחד לא פתח לי את היד, אף אחד לא הכניס. האקציה הייתה 3 ימים. 3 ימים עצרו אנשים, הביאו אותם לשקדי, וירו בהם. אחרי איזו תקופה, אחרי שבועיים עצרו אותי בעיר. ידעתי לאן אני הולך, ידעתי. אז כשהתקרבנו לבית הקברות עשיתי קפיצה, וברחתי, ומישהו ירה בי, ואני לא הרגשתי שאני נפגעתי. היום זה הכל, כמעט כל לילה אני רואה את זה בחלום שלי.
Within a few months, as part of a unit of the Lithuanian army, he was taking part personally in the killing of Jews. We took them from the ghetto into some forest. In that forest, they were shot. Men, women, and everyone at the same time. It was our battalion and a German detachment. You could not do it without the Germans. They had machine guns. We had just to shoot, go back to the cars, and go away. You just pressed the trigger and shot. That was it.
This was what Petrus Zilionka, an Einsatzgruppen member, said. Because as a teen, he learned that he had to either hate the Jews or he had to die. He wasn't German, but from a Baltic state. And at first it didn't bother him that he had to shoot them. But soon, psychological tension started the need for a new way to kill the Jews. Gas vans had helped people in death camps kill numbers of people at the same time, so why not make a gas chamber in a van? So, they made gas vans. In a secret letter from Dr. August Becker to SS Obersturmbannführer Roth, he said, I have had the vans of Einsatzgruppen D disguised as house trailers, but the civilian population referred to them as the death vans as soon as one appeared. In my opinion, the vans cannot be kept secret for any length of time, even if they are camouflaged. As you can see, compared to what house trailers look like today, or RVs, these look really out of the ordinary, but if you think back to that time, that was actually a very nice house trailer. But once you look on the inside, it doesn't look so heartwarming and home-like. And many people noticed that as soon as they got in them, but by that time it was too late. They had already shut the doors. During the afternoon, Nebe had the windows bricked in, leaving 2 openings for the gas hose. When we arrived, one of the hoses that I brought was connected. It was fixed onto the exhaust of a touring police car. After 8 minutes, he had been unable to detect any results, and he asked what should be done next. So, Nebe had a second hose fitted on the transport vehicle. It took a few minutes, and the people were unconscious. This was the testimony of Dr. Albert Widman on the killings of an asylum at Mogilev east of Minsk. So when they bricked the windows, they had everybody in one room because they couldn't bring them to the vans because most of them were delusional. So once they had them all into the one room, they had them brick the windows and they started the gas in. They had no chance of surviving. Many times when mass shootings were committed, they didn't check to see if there were any survivors. Then I felt that I was choking, people falling over me. I tried to move and felt that I was alive and that I could rise. I was strangling. I heard the shots and I was praying for another bullet to put an end to my suffering, but I continued to move about. I tried to save myself, to find some air to breathe, and then I felt that I was climbing towards the top of the grave, above the bodies. I rose, and I felt bodies pulling at me with their hands, biting at my legs, pulling me down, down. And yet, with my last strength, I came up on top of the grave. This was another thing that Rivka Yasloveska talked about. Many times, people were alive, but they couldn't get the strength to come out. Yet she still had that strength. This is another survivor's story, one of Dina Pernincheva. Then she heard people walking near her, on the bodies. They were Germans who had climbed down and were bending over and taking things from the dead, and occasionally firing at those which showed signs of life. One SS man caught his foot against me, and my appearance aroused his suspicions. I hung limp and gave no signs of life. He kicked me in the breast with his heavy boot and trod on the right hand so that the bones cracked. But he didn't use his gun and went off. What she was talking about was when, after they had figured that everybody had been shot, they'd go through and look for valuables on the bodies, something they could sell for some pocket money, maybe give it to their wife and not tell them how they got it. She was lucky not to be found. Again I say, the Einsatzgruppen killing squads were violent and emotionless when committing mass shootings, inventing and using gas vans, and leaving survivors to die. In the beginning of 1941, they had just targeted the public enemies, like communists, gypsies, and Jewish men of legal age, but by the late summer, they had taken Jewish women and children, too. Most of these people died. They never did anything wrong, but the Einsatzgruppen had their orders, and that didn't stop them. They also got to declare one thing. Places east of Germany could be called Judenfree, that they had made Eastern Europe almost free of Jews. I'll leave you with a picture of a mother trying to save her child. We know from pictures after this that they didn't live. There were too many guns and not enough time. But they tried. They didn't do anything, but they tried. And the Einsatzgruppen will forever be murderers.